In this video, we'll walk you through the complete process of changing the automatic transmission oil and filter on a Mazda CX-5. This job is straightforward and can be done at home with a handful of basic tools. Before we get started, let's go over the tools and parts you'll need. You'll need a hydraulic jack and jack stands to comfortably work under the car, a clip removal tool or a flathead screwdriver, and a Phillips screwdriver to remove the underbody panels, a ratchet with a 10mm socket and an 8mm hex bit, as well as a torque wrench, a scraper or razor blade for removing the old sealant, and some fresh RTV sealant suitable for automatic transmissions, a thermometer to measure oil temperature, an oil catch pan, and a few empty bottles so you can measure exactly how much oil drains out. You'll also need a funnel and a length of vinyl tubing, with an outside diameter of maximum a ½ inch that fits the funnel so you can refill the transmission from the top of the engine bay. Have some brake cleaner ready and 6 quarts of Mazda FZ automatic transmission fluid, a new metal drain plug washer, and of course a new transmission filter. I also use some plastic clip removal tools to pry off the oil pan. Links to the parts and tools are in the description below. We'll begin by lifting the vehicle so we have room to work safely underneath. Position your hydraulic jack under the front subframe and raise the car. The subframe is visible near the large bolt in the center of the car behind the engine. Once it's high enough, place jack stands under the designated support points on both sides of the vehicle. Slowly lower the car into the stands. I like to leave the hydraulic jack in place as an extra precaution. Next, we'll remove the underbody cover beneath the engine. This panel is held in place with 6 plastic clips and 7 bolts. Use your clip removal tool or flathead screwdriver to pop out the plastic clips, and the 10mm socket to remove the bolts. When it's loose, set the panel aside. With the panel out of the way, you now have a clear view of the bottom of the transmission, and the drain plug we'll remove later. For easier access to the transmission dipstick, you can also remove the front underbody cover. This cover is held in with 4 plastic clips and 4 screws. If you want, you can leave this panel in place, but accessing the dipstick can be a bit more fiddly. Before draining any oil, we want to check the transmission fluid level with the engine cold and the engine off. This gives us a reference point for later. The transmission dipstick is located on the front of the gearbox underneath the air filter and is held in place with 1 bolt. You can reach the bolt from underneath the car. Remove the bolt with a 10mm socket, set it aside, and pull out the dipstick. Clean it off and reinsert it to check the level. Take note of the fluid level. This is the target level we'll aim for when refilling the gearbox later. Here, the level is all the way to the top of the dipstick. Reinsert the dipstick for now, and reinstall the bolt. Now, we can begin draining the old transmission fluid. Place a piece of cardboard under the transmission to catch any splashes and position your drain pan beneath the drain plug. Loosen the plug with the 8mm hex socket and allow the oil to drain completely. Mazda doesn't specify a change interval for this transmission, but most dealerships recommend changing the fluid every 60,000 to 80,000 miles. Once the fluid has finished draining, we can remove the transmission oil pan. The pan is held in place with 16 bolts. Remove all but 2 bolts on opposite corners. Loosen these 2 bolts, but don't remove them. These will hold the pan in place when we break the seal. Because the pan is sealed with RTV, it will be stuck on firmly. Use a plastic wedge or a thin blade to carefully pry the pan loose. Take your time and avoid damaging the mating surfaces. I use some plastic pry tools to remove interior panels and a hammer to wedge the tool in between the gearbox and the oil pan. Work your way around the oil pan, and once the seal is broken, remove the last 2 bolts and lower the pan. Leave the cardboard and drain pan in place. More fluid will continue to drip from the transmission. With the pan removed, we can take out the old filter. The filter is secured with 2 bolts. Remove them with a 10mm socket and pull the filter straight down. Again, expect some fluid to drain out as you remove it. When the dripping slows, take the oil catch pan and pour the used oil into your measuring container. A clear bottle with marked volume levels works perfectly. Whatever amount you drained out is the amount you'll put back in later as your initial refill. Now, take the oil pan aside and clean it thoroughly using brake cleaner. Also make sure to remove all the metal particles collected on the magnet. Next, we need to remove all of the old sealant from both the oil pan and the transmission. Use a gasket scraper or a razor blade and take your time working thoroughly along the edges. I'm using plastic scraper blades here to avoid damaging the pan. This step is slow and unfortunately there aren't any real shortcuts. Just be patient and make sure you don't scratch the mating surfaces. Spraying some WD-40 can help soften the old sealant a little, but it won't replace the scraping. If needed, you can also use a soft brass wire brush to clean off the last stubborn traces. Repeat the same process on the gearbox flange. Once both surfaces are completely clean, smooth, and free of sealant, we can move on to reassembly. Begin by installing the new filter. Make sure the O-rings on the filter and an outlet are in place and lightly coat them with fresh oil. Push the filter into position and reinstall the 2 bolts that hold it in place. Now it's time to reinstall the oil pan. Make sure the inside of the pan is clean and degrease the mating surface one last time. Apply a continuous bead of sealant to the pan. First, trace the inner sealing path all around the pan. Then put some sealant around the bolt holes. Some filters come with a rubber-type gasket, but we will use RTV to reseal the pan, as this is what Mazda used from factory. Before installing the pan in place, check that no oil has dripped onto the transmission's mating surface and clean it one last time. Any oil here can compromise the seal. Move the oil pan into position, but before pressing the pan onto the gearbox, install 2 or 3 bolts loosely to make sure the pan is in the correct position. Evenly thread them in so the sealant contacts the surface evenly. Once the sealant touches the gearbox, install the remaining bolts. Follow the instructions for your particular sealant. In our case, we finger tighten the bolts just until the sealant begins to squeeze out slightly. Then, allow the sealant to set for 2 hours before torquing all bolts to 10 Newton-meters or 7.5 foot-pounds in a crisscross pattern. After torquing, the sealant needs a full 24 hours to cure before we add fluid. When the sealant has fully cured, reinstall the drain plug with a new washer and torque it to 35 Newton-meters or 26 foot-pounds. Next, remove the dipstick from underneath the car and set up your funnel and vinyl tubing from the top of the engine bay to refill the transmission. Make sure the tube is securely inserted into the transmission before you start pouring. Add the same volume of ATF that you measured earlier. Use only Mazda ATF-FZ fluid in this gearbox. Once filled, check the dipstick. The level should match approximately the cold reading we took earlier. If everything looks good, reinstall the dipstick and secure it with the bolt. To verify the final fluid level, the transmission must be at 50 degrees Celsius or 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Lower the car, start the engine, and check for any oil leaks. Now take a short drive of about 10 minutes to warm up the gearbox oil. Avoid highway speeds. Slow to moderate driving warms the transmission faster. If you have a CAN bus scanner, you can monitor the temperature digitally. Otherwise, an infrared thermometer aimed at the pan will get you close, or you can use a probe thermometer through the dipstick tube for a direct reading. When the transmission reaches around 50 degrees Celsius, raise the car again and place the jack stands on both sides of the car. Start the car and leave the transmission in park. Loosen the dipstick bolt and remove the dipstick carefully. Watch out, everything will be hot. Wipe the dipstick clean, reinsert it fully, and check the level. The fluid should be in the middle between the two marks on the dipstick. If the level is correct, shut off the engine, reinstall the dipstick, and tighten the retaining bolt. Reinstall both underbody panels and the bolts and plastic retaining clips. Lower the vehicle to the ground and check again if there are no visible oil leaks. And that's it, you've successfully changed the transmission oil and filter on your Mazda CX-5. If this video was helpful, please consider giving it a like and subscribe for more DIY maintenance guides. Thanks for watching.